Moving past this, I hope someone here can help me. I've never been through anything like this and I'm kind of lost at the moment. Last week, I came home from a business trip and found my wife of 23 years in bed with my next-door neighbor. I thought it was strange for her car to be home in the middle of the day and when I didn't find her upstairs. I went down to the basement and caught them in the act in the guest room. Since then, she's gone back and forth between apologizing and being furious with me for telling everyone about her affair, including the neighbor's wife and our kids. The kids are refusing to speak to her, and of course that's my fault. I can't trust a thing that comes out of her mouth. First, she told me that they were only together that one time. And then she admitted to a couple more times. And finally the neighbor's wife told me he confessed to this going on for over a year. I'm at the point of just wanting her to leave and never come back, but I have friends telling me to give it a while and maybe my feelings will change once the shock wears off. Is it possible to get over this and move on? How do I know that this is the only time she's done this? I find it hard to believe that she just flipped a switch after 23 years and became a cheater. But that's what she swears. The kids are on spring break this week and we had planned to spend the week at my parents' beach house. I almost canceled due to circumstances. But the kids really wanted to go. I thought it would probably be good for all of us to get out of the house for a few days. My wife didn't really want to go. But the kids guilted her into coming too. To ease someone's fears, I am not a tax accountant. My partner and I started a small practice about 15 years ago and he handles the tax side while I handle the audit side. That's probably a good thing right now, as I'm sure no one would want me signing off on their return. I don't know if I'm defeated or not. There are times I certainly feel defeated, but there are also times when I have a glimmer of hope that we can recover from this. I think it would be easier to deal with if she just vomited out all of the details and let me deal with the whole ugly truth at once. This trickling of facts is just killing me. Every time I find something new, it's like we're back to square one. I think I'm almost to the point of committing to at least trying to salvage our marriage. I think I owe myself that. That way, if things don't work out, I can at least live with the knowledge that I did everything that I could. She also keeps saying that she wants to stay and work on the marriage, and her anger seems to have subsided some over the past 2 days. I know that I share in the problems in our marriage, but never anything as devastating as this. How do I walk that fine line of dealing with my contributions to the problems without feeling like I am letting her get away with this? I am certainly not willing to tolerate or live with the current state of things. Is it fair to give her a list of requirements that she must agree to before I decide to commit to trying? As to moving, we had been talking about downsizing for about 6 months. But she was always hesitant. I guess I know why now. Our oldest daughter graduates this year and will head off to college in the fall, so I think this may be a good chance to downsize and get out of this neighborhood and away from the neighbor. I was hoping to wait out this housing slump, but some things are more important than money. Besides, the home values in my neighborhood, while down about 10%, are still way above what we paid for the house, and the house is paid off. Sorry for the rambling post. I just have so much swirling around in my head it's hard to focus. Again, thanks for all the responses. I will try to check in some this week, but I have limited internet access. 6 months later, my WW was begging for reconciliation and doing everything she could to make amends, so I decided to jump in and do my best to recover our marriage. I am proof that a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. I thought everything was moving along really well until it all unraveled a few weeks ago. While she did and said all the right things to keep me committed and working on the marriage, she was busy taking the affair deeper underground and continuing it right under my nose. I found a prepaid cell phone hidden behind some boxes in our basement on Labor Day that she was using to talk and text him. I didn't tell her that I found it and decided instead to do some digging before confronting her. I installed a keylogger on her laptop and found a secret email account that included dozens of dirty emails and pictures between the two of them. But that's not the worst part. My doctor prescribed Ambien for me soon after D-Day 1 because I was having a hard time getting any sleep. She used the fact that when I took the Ambien, I would sleep soundly through the night to meet up with OM. His wife travels regularly on business, and when she was out of town and I was knocked out in bed, she would meet him in our basement to continue their PA. I found this out by reading the deleted emails on the secret account. I am posting this as a warning to any BS who will listen. Do not believe a word your WS says. If they are speaking, they are lying, at least in the beginning. If I had been more diligent to keep digging and checking up on her, I wouldn't have wasted 6 months on a false recovery. Please verify. Verify. And verify again anything your WS tells you. She wasn't as transparent as I thought. She did give me all of her passwords, but only to the accounts I knew about. There was no NC letter, and I didn't install a keylogger until I found her prepaid cell phone, which I knew nothing about. We did put our house on the market and try to move away from OM, who was our neighbor. but it is a slow market. I failed miserably at reconciliation because I heard what I wanted to hear and I wanted to believe that she was as remorseful as she sounded. Therefore, my warning to verify, and believe nothing that comes from your WS mouth. I bought a VAR after I found the prepaid cell phone and installed it in her car. I have a number of conversations with already saved and locked in my desk drawer at work along with printouts of all the photos and emails from her secret account. My lawyer is currently drawing up divorce papers and I could file as early as this week if I decide to. I have also bought a video camera small enough to hide on the bookshelf in that room. I plan to set it up tonight while she's at the Y. I know from a conversation I got off of the VAR last week that OMW will be out of town from tomorrow until Friday. The camera says it will record up to 8 hours of video, so I plan to turn it on before I go to bed and see what I get. I thought about not taking my meds and catching them in the act, but my lawyer warned me not to do anything stupid. He said we are in a great position right now and not to do anything to jeopardize that by losing my cool and doing something that would get me arrested. My biggest regret at this point is that I didn't put this much time and work into recovery by doing the things almost recovered suggested above. I should have forced a formal NC letter instead of just taking her word for it. I should have dug deeper in the beginning and took measures like the VAR and the keylogger soon after D-Day 1. If I had it to do over, I would have even insisted on a polygraph to make sure I got the whole truth. My goal now is to get enough evidence to force her hand and get her to agree to an amicable divorce to spare my kids from any more grief. They are still angry at her and the last thing they need is to be pitted between us in a divorce battle. I would love to punish her by alienating her kids from her. But I know that's not what's best for the kids. At least one of us has to put their needs first. I don't know if the OMW suspects anything or not. I haven't said anything to her since I found the phone on Labor Day. I wanted to get as much evidence as possible without alerting her that I was onto her, and I was afraid OMW would tell and would tell my WW. I do plan to give her copies of all the evidence I have obtained once I confront my WW. I am trying to be really careful with my actions right now. I erred the first time by not doing enough to ensure that the affair was truly over. I don't want to err this time by rushing too far in the other direction by doing something stupid. I probably have enough evidence already, but I'm just concerned that most courts are still biased against the man in divorce proceedings. I would also like to have enough evidence to convince her to agree to what I consider a generous settlement, and not contest the divorce. I am afraid that we all think that our situation is unique or that our WS is unique, but they really are not. I think we sometimes just don't want to believe the horrible truth we are facing. It's easier to just deny and choose the path of least resistance instead of putting our heads down and doing the hard work. I don't know if it was the thrill of doing it in the home or whether that was their only opportunity. Since D-Day 1, I have been keeping pretty good tabs on her. I call her office at random times during the day to make sure she's there. She's almost always either with me or the kids, teenagers, when she's not at work. The middle of the night was probably the only time they had available. I also snore pretty badly, so it wasn't uncommon for her to move to the guest room so she could get some sleep. As for being generous with the divorce settlement, I really don't want to drag this out, and what I'm offering is only slightly better than what the courts would probably award. The only thing the adultery really does is drastically reduce the waiting period. My kids are all teenagers and the oldest is already away at college. The court normally allows children of this age to decide which parent they want to live with except in cases of abuse, and they have all been adamant that they would want to live with me, in exchange for not contesting the divorce and not fighting for custody. I am promising to not seek child support. I would also allow her to see the kids whenever she or they wanted. We would either sell the house and split the proceeds, or she could buy my half and stay there. I don't really want it. The courts would likely split things 50-50 anyway. Don't think that possibility hasn't crossed my mind. I have searched my mind over the past 2 weeks for any signs I may have missed in the past. I can't really put my finger on anything, but that doesn't mean nothing was going on. She has fought depression since shortly after our youngest child was born and has been on and off meds for it for years. There have been times when she was cold and distant, but I always chalked it up to the depression and she would eventually come back around to acting more normal. I do know for a fact that I snore because the kids have given me a hard time about it for years. I don't know how often or how loud, but the WW has been averaging a couple of nights a week in the guest room for the past 10 years or so. I am just anxious to get this over with ASAP. I knew deep down after D-Day 1 that couldn't get over this, but I convinced myself to give it another shot after she was so seemingly apologetic and honest. I fell for the begging and gave in, ignoring my better judgment. Now, I just need to get out of this marriage and out of this house so that I can move on with my life. So, here's the deal. I got all the evidence I needed last night, and if all goes as planned, she will be served with divorce papers tomorrow. I have both audio and video of their hookup, and I have locked the originals in my desk at the office and made a copy to send to OMW and one to spring on my WW tonight. I am just so cold emotionally right now that I just want her gone and this whole thing over with. I knew after D-Day 1 that I probably wouldn't get over this, but I let her begging and crying keep me from doing what needed to be done. When I found that prepaid phone and those emails, I could feel myself just check out. I was ticked, but mostly at myself for being a fool. Now, I go between anger at her and then just nothing. It's like an emotional roller coaster, but just taking the bull by the horns and getting control of things has made me start to feel a little better. I'm sure there will be tough days ahead, but right now I'm relieved to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I need to tell my kids about things. Should I do it before she is served or after? I definitely will not play the recordings for them, but I did plan to tell them that I have that evidence as proof of her ongoing affair. Any advice on how to handle the kids? I decided to wait until after she served the papers sometime today to show her the new evidence. That should put an end to any angry outburst or begging for another chance. I have thought of 1,000 things I would like to do to OM, but I simply refuse to lower myself to his level. I know what has to be done, and I'm resolved to follow through with the divorce. I grieve the loss of a 25-year relationship, 23 years of marriage, but the truth is that WW is not the same woman I married. I hope that at some point she's able to get her life back on track and fix whatever's wrong with her. But I just can't be a part of that after what I've been through the past few months. My kids are all old enough to understand what's going on. The oldest is a freshman in college and the younger two are both in high school. I exposed her affair to all of them after D-Day 1. 6 months ago. I think I will take the advice here and wait until after the WW is served and presented with the evidence to speak with the kids. I think in some ways this divorce will be a relief to them. They have all told me not to stay in this marriage for them and that they would be fine if I ended it. I have mixed feelings today. I'm a little sad and a little relieved at the same time. I don't know if the evidence is admissible in court or not and did not ask my lawyer. My filing is based on my personal testimony of catching them in the act earlier and cell phone records from early this year that show hundreds of texts between them at all hours of the day and night. I did look into privacy laws, and while there are certain places where there is an expectation of privacy, my state doesn't explicitly prohibit placing cameras in those locations. It is deemed okay to install cameras in a bedroom when it is approved by the owner of the property, which is me. I also know that I can't use it to try to blackmail her or him in any way. My intent for this information is simply to avoid the inevitable denials which I have heard whenever I found something suspicious. I'm just tired of getting lied to. I'm hoping the video will convince her not to drag this out and simply agree to the divorce. I would like to avoid unnecessary legal fees and delays to most likely get back to what I'm offering her, which is a 50-50 split of all assets. I would also like for her to give me custody of our minor children, and in turn I will give her unlimited visitation rights and not ask for any child support. My boys are 15 and 16 and would most likely be given a voice in which parent they prefer to stay with, and I am sure that would be me based on their anger at her affair from my exposure 6 months ago. I do plan to inform OMW of their continued affair ASAP after I confront my WW. A week later. This was a crazy, stressful weekend, but in the end, I feel like I'm on the right track for personal recovery. She was served with divorce papers on Friday afternoon at work. She must have sent a dozen angry texts and left close to that many voicemails before I got home. I only responded to one text and simply told her we would talk about it when I got home. I did send the OMW a text telling her that I had new video evidence that the affair was still going on and that I would send it to her if she wanted. She did. So I emailed it to her before I left to go home on Friday. She started in as soon as I walked in, wanting to know how I could blindside her like this and that she thought things were going well lately. I handed her my iPad and told her to watch the video. It probably took less than minutes for her to realize what she was watching. She dropped the iPad on the sofa and just sat there in shock for a while. When she finally did speak, all she could say was, "I can explain, and it's not what you think." I just told her to drop it because I wasn't interested in excuses anymore. After spending most of the weekend listening to excuses, pleading for just one more chance and tearful apologies, she finally calmed down enough to talk about the divorce papers. I was able to explain my offer to her. Her only reservations were related to child custody. I told her to go talk to her own attorney and we could talk about it again after that. She is supposed to make an appointment today and let me know when it is. I have realized that I am just not the kind who can move on from this and recover the marriage. I think I knew that after D-Day 1, but I just wasn't ready to give up on something and someone that had been so integral in over half my life. I don't know that I can really ever be friends with her again, but I am committed to being cordial for the sake of my kids. The last 6 months felt like I was living in limbo. Now, I feel like I am taking positive steps to move on with my life. The truth is that we have both neglected the marriage for many years. The big difference is that I didn't choose to cheat and she did. I told her that the time for working on things was years ago and that I just didn't have it in me to deal with her choices with OM. I don't really know what OMW did. I haven't talked to her since I sent the video. I don't really care at this point. They do live next door and all I know is that his car was in the driveway all weekend, so she hasn't given him the boot yet. I just thought she had a right to know. I would have wanted to have been told if I were in her shoes. What do you think the chances are that this is not her first affair? I am finding it harder and harder to believe that she just flipped this switch and lost her mind. She has denied it when I ask about the past, but at this point, her word doesn't really mean anything. There was no noticeable difference in the frequency of our intimacy. It's averaged 2 to 3 times per week for as long as I can remember, with the exception of a few weeks after D-Day 1 and the past 2 weeks. Of course, there were weeks of more than 3 times and weeks of none sprinkled in during that time. I did go the week after D-Day 2 and have the full round of STD tests again. There's nothing quite like going to your doctor for those tests 2 times in 6 months' time. Luckily all were negative. I am torn over how much I want to know. Part of me is obsessing over knowing all of the details, including any prior affairs. But there's also a part that just says let it go and move on. What good would that knowledge really do? But I just can't shake the thought that our marriage has been a sham for years and I was oblivious to it. She agreed to move to the guest room until we could work out other housing arrangements. It's kind of like we're already living separate lives in the same house. My boys refuse to talk to her and I am avoiding her as much as possible. She has an appointment with an attorney on Friday. So I hope he will agree that I'm giving her a sweetheart of a deal given our circumstances. I have scheduled some counseling for me and the boys for next week. I've always been very independent and self-sufficient, but I think I need outside help with this one. I told all 3 of my kids about her affair the day after D-Day 1. They were all old enough to know what was going on that would affect their lives. They do not know about the video evidence. I just told them that I had additional evidence that the affair was still going on and that she had not stopped as she promised to do, and that because of that I was filing for divorce. The 2 boys refuse to speak to her and pretty much ignore her whenever she is around. My daughter is still talking to her mother. She is at college, so she doesn't have to live in the house with the WW every day. I think she still believes that she can eventually get through to her mother. The WW is a wreck. She has called in sick to work for the past 2 days, and from the looks of her in the evening, I don't think she's showered in days. There is still a small part of me that feels for her, but there is another part that enjoys watching her suffer. I just want her to hurt like I do and feel the pain she's caused. I am fighting to be the better person through all of this. But it's a real struggle. I just don't want anyone else to make the same mistakes that I did. I don't know that I should have gone straight to divorce after D-Day 1, but I should have been firmer in my requirements to give recovery a shot. I pretty much gave her a free pass because I believed what I wanted to believe. I should have taken advantage of a keylogger and VAR from day 1. I would probably have demanded a polygraph to get the whole truth up front if I had it to do over. The good news is that OM will be moving on Saturday. OMW told me last night that he would be moving into a rental house they own, which will be open when the current lease runs out on Friday. I know it's a little late to do any real good, but at least I won't have to run the risk of seeing him around the neighborhood. I plan to sell the house and its bad memories ASAP. Any new relationships will start in a new house where I will create new memories. But I would think it will be a long time before I'm ready to think about dating and other women. I feel more at peace with my decision to move straight to divorce every day. WW talked to her attorney on Friday and he basically advised her to take the agreement and run. They asked for a few minor procedural changes which I have no problem with. I told her I would run them by my attorney this week and let her know. If we can work the details out, we can finalize in 3 months. On a brighter note, I picked up my boys from school on Friday and took them camping for the weekend. We had a great weekend. Nothing like a little hiking, fishing, and time around the campfire to relieve stress. We had some good discussions about things and I think they feel better about where we're all headed and getting their heads around the idea of what their lives will be like lost divorce. Update: WW has gotten herself together somewhat. She is back at work and going through the motions of everyday life much like before D-Day. She is spending most of her free time at home alone in the guest room, but she is having dinner with me and the kids most nights. Things are still tense but getting better by the day. We are still living in the same house until we can work out getting the house sold and moving. She came to me yesterday and asked if I was sure that this divorce was what I really wanted. I assured her that I was certain. She proceeded to try to convince me to give things one more try. She even asked what it would take for me to call off everything and try again. I told her that I wasn't sure I could do that. She said that she didn't want a divorce and that she wanted to work things out, but she understood where I was at and that she would agree to my offer and not contest the divorce if that's what I truly wanted. She has offered to give me the entire truth including any details I ask for. She even offered to take a polygraph to prove she was telling the truth. It's amazing how a little humility and remorse can make you question things. She has apologized several times to me, and during dinner on Saturday, she apologized to the boys. She told them that she was sorry for what she had done to me and to them, and that she was 100% responsible for breaking up our family. At this point, I'm not ready to change from the current plan. I plan to move ahead with the divorce. I have about 3 months before things will be finalized, so I am willing to listen to her and work with her for the next couple of months, and then take one last look at things before everything is finalized. I am really kind of confused about what I want to do at this point. There is certainly a part of me that thinks I should push ahead with the polygraph while she is willing, and that if I get the whole truth and I see true contrition, that I should consider putting things off and giving things another try. It's hard to walk away from 25 years of your life even when she's done what she's done. But there is another part of me that thinks I should push forward with the divorce and move on, because there is no way I will ever get over the horrible images that I have branded into my head. Am I crazy for even leaving the door for reconciliation open just a little bit? Here's how I plan to proceed. 1. Continue with the divorce as planned. 2. In exchange for complete honesty, including polygraph. And I see to work on her poor boundaries, poor decision-making, and destructive behaviors, I will not close the door for a possible reconciliation. That would only happen after divorce was finalized and we would start any new relationship off independently from the current one. I will also work to help her repair her relationships with our children. The chances of us reconciling is really slim in my mind, however. I would like to see her work through her demons and return to the person she was before all of this happened. As much as I despise her at times, I know we have a lot of graduations, weddings, and maybe grandkids to look forward someday, and for the sake of our kids I would like for them to be able to enjoy these occasions without worrying about what will happen between mom and dad. The good news is that I got an offer on my house this week that I am probably going to accept. I think I'll feel a lot better when I'm out of this house and away from all of its bad memories. I'm not sure what to think. WW did her polygraph this week. I told her that I wouldn't make her any promises about reconciliation and that I was still leaning towards following through with the divorce no matter what. She still wanted to do the test. She said that since we were headed to divorce anyway, that she wanted to get the truth out there and start over from scratch wherever that may lead. I gave her my list of questions on Saturday and told her that I was tired of digging for the truth and that I would be much more understanding of what was discovered if she told me the whole truth before we got to the test on Tuesday. She sat down with me on Monday evening and basically told me I had been living a lie for the past 7 years. There was a total of 4 affairs that lasted from 6 months to a year over the past 7 years. 2 were guys she worked with. 1 was with a family friend, and the latest was with our neighbor. The first 3 have all moved away over the years, but number 4 still lives in town, although not next door since his wife kicked him out. I basically told her that I was still going through with the divorce, but that I did appreciate the honesty. Her confession did prove true as verified by the polygraph. She has decided to start IC and try to find out why she has done what she has done. At this point, I can't ever imagine being with her again, but I do want to help her recover so that she can be the mother my kids need. My emotions are all over the place. I am angry about her betrayal, but at the same time I'm relieved because all the problems of the past few years make sense now. I am also angry at myself for being such an idiot to have these affairs going on right under my nose. Take my advice. If something seems wrong, it probably is. Don't push your marital problems under the rug or just hope things will eventually get better. Engage the problem and get to the truth before it's too late, and don't spend years living a lie like I have done. At this point, I just feel dirty that I was still sleeping with her while unknowingly sharing her with 4 different guys. Knowing the truth surely helps with my resolve to just move on. The only thing that really happened prior to the affairs was her going back to work. Most of the ladies in the office were single at that time, though most have married since. She was barely out of college when we married. So I don't know if being around all these single women and hearing them talk about dating made her think she missed out on something by marrying so young or not. She was a virgin when we met, although I was not. But I can't believe that all of this can be chalked up to curiosity, or missing the young, single life. Something more significant had to have happened to make her throw her morals aside and to do something that was so contrary to everything she once believed in. 1 year later, for those wondering, I am happily divorced now. Divorce has been final for about 6 months. And life is good. I am dating some, nothing serious, my kids have adjusted well, and even my ex-W is doing better and getting the help she needs. My kids are older, so I really don't have to deal with child exchange issues, so I don't have any need to see the ex at all. I do run into her at the kids' activities, and a couple of times a month we will even go out to dinner together with the kids after whatever event we met at. I did leave the door open to a possible future post-divorce reconciliation in exchange for her total honesty and getting the help she needed. She has done great on both of those fronts, but while I can't say with 100% certainty, I don't think we will ever reconcile. She's been working through a lot of her issues, and every time I see her, she's more and more like the person I married many years ago. But I don't think I will ever truly trust her again. I have worked on myself and I have finally come to a place where I can say that I have totally forgiven her. That doesn't mean that I have any desire to jump back on the marriage roller coaster with her again. I'm not around here much anymore. I have a busy life and too many other things that require my attention. But there were people here to help me in my time of need, and I feel a certain responsibility to pay that forward to others when I can. My comment: by divorcing her and by only divorcing her, you are actually helping her big time by shocking her to reality and give her enough time for retrospection. False are not only waste your time, but also allow her to continue her indecent path. Had you catch her earlier, her path of life would be better. But again, she did not ask for help and chose to hide from you. It is her lose. You guys like this full story? Hope you liked it. Sub and bell and I'll get back to making another video.